Aston Villa, though, what a story they are proving to be, Simon. So they leapfrog Manchester City and move into third with a 1-0 win. It was just the other week there at Tottenham after they won at Tottenham. I saw a very content Unai Emery inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So last night, he must have been even more content with the way Villa went about the job and the way Villa are doing a job. They've now extended their home run to 14 successive league wins, equaling a record set in 1931. Last night, for the record, and remember this is Manchester City who they were playing, Villa had 22 shots, City registered 2. Villa won the ball back 13 times in City's half. That is a record in the Premier League. So now one has to wonder, is something special on for Aston Villa? This was Emery on taking the scalp of City.
For me, it's the best. And it's the first time I beat him, but I am getting opportunities to play against the best team, the best coaches, the best players. I am there. And we are only focusing each match, and we are thinking only Arsenal. We are now third, and we are not contender. We are not contender. They are at the end, other 7 teams contended more than us to be in the top 7. And we are now in, but still a lot of matches to play, a lot of points to play. And Saturday is, again, the challenge. And I want to enjoy the way. I want to enjoy each match, the preparation, today, tomorrow, on Friday, Saturday. And I really enjoy with the player, with the supporters, with the atmosphere we are creating each moment.
So they're 4 points behind Arsenal. And the two play each other, Simon, this weekend. Unai Emery diplomatically saying, "No, us, we're not contenders." Guardiola, when asked, "Are Villa title contenders, Pep?" He said, "Yeah, definitely. Because of the way they're playing. When you are there, you see the physicality, the tempo, the speed, the bench, the organisation for Unai, the set pieces, etc. Yes, they're contenders." Do you think they are, Simon?
I think it would be surprising. I think it would be as surprising to Aston Villa and to Unai Emery if they were indeed title contenders, legitimate title contenders. Do I think that they are in a race to perhaps cement themselves inside the top 6 and maybe even get inside the top 4?
Top 4?
Yeah, possibly, yeah. I think it's a reach. But look, we've seen situations like this before. I mean, it's a very different time than the time that Leicester won the league, and it's a very different dynamic. I don't feel that Villa will be the champions of the Premier League this year, but I think they'll make a big noise, and I'm not surprised. They've got 2 guys at the very top of the ownership that are very focused on understanding how sports franchises, in their view, run. They've committed finances behind them. They've bought well. They've bought in a manager that Newcastle would have liked to have had first off the bat. And I'm not surprised Emery's doing a decent job. And he is, like in many incarnations, he is the polar opposite of the manager they had in place before, in terms of Steven Gerrard. He's not learning on the job. He isn't inexperienced. He knows his way around. He's a proven winner and achiever at the highest level, whether that's at PSG, whether it's for a period of time at Arsenal, or whether it was in Spain with Villarreal.
Yeah.
And the guy is a top draw manager. And if you listen to what's coming out right now, of course everything is rosy in the garden. Of course, when you see teams winning the way that they are, you'll hear about this remarkable training regime that they've never seen before. But the two things are inextricably indexed. So you have to give a lot of plaudits to Aston Villa. It's nice to see a club of this stature and this history doing well in the Premier League. I've always been an Aston Villa fan, irrespective of whether Gabby Agbonlahor played for them or not. But the point is that they're a good team to watch. They're a good side, and they're a very honest side. And there's some players in there like McGinn that are proper players.
Oh yeah,
and Leon Bailey being fit and firing is a good player.
Yeah, so Villa won it. Now in your column this morning in the Mail, Simon Jordan on Thursday.
With no allegations in there.
You're very complimentary about Eddie Howe. We'll get to that in the fullness of time. Newcastle, of course, in action tonight against Everton. But when it comes to Unai Emery, is he knocking on the door of the elite? Or is he the best of the rest right now?
Well, I think he's certainly in the conversation, absolutely. I mean, we've got an argument going on about a lot of managers right now. Ange Postecoglou makes the grade in terms of people's perception of what Tottenham were and what they're becoming. So absolutely, this record that he's on with 14 wins straight at Villa Park, and the manner in which Villa are playing and approaching the game. Obviously they got beat 2, 3, 4 weeks ago against Nottingham Forest, and we're making an observation about Nottingham Forest's manager being almost out the door. I think there is a lot more about Unai Emery in the manner in which he operates inside the media now. I understand that he brings alongside him every time he speaks to the media now. He's gotten wiser, a translator, to make sure that there's no loss of translation. So he's gotten wiser to that.
Yeah, I saw that.
But his team are playing with an intensity and a motivation and a discipline and a style that can only have been drilled into them by their manager. And clearly they're being communicated in a way that they're responding to. And I think it's great. I think the more teams that make up this league, the more that we run the riders faster and harder than we've done previously, the better this league is. So we don't want to see it. I don't want to see it being a Liverpool-Man City conversation or a Liverpool-Man City-Arsenal conversation. I want to see it be a conversation between 8 sides or 9 sides that make it such a compelling proposition that everybody's engaged from dawn till dusk.
Very much so. I mean, it begs a question on that topic. What is happening to the chasm gap in Manchester? Now, just 3 points between City and United.
Moments in time. Look, Manchester City are...
Simon.
You can look at the game against Tottenham on the weekend. You can look at the game against Chelsea in isolation. I still think this Manchester City side are the best side in the division. They may not currently be top of the league, but that is a moment in time. We have had 30% of the season. This is a micro look. At a micro look, yes, we can make a wonderful story out of Aston Villa. We can make a wonderful statistical analysis that there's only 3 points gap between Manchester United and Manchester City, but they are in different zip codes when it comes to the quality of their performances. As a matter of I know that a lot of that was made out of Manchester United's performance being the form team in the league, but the manner in which they were winning those games, they were eking past lesser sides. And we're still in a situation where Man United aren't beaten sides that are inside the top 6. They've beaten the Chelsea side. Chelsea ain't great. They're not a great side. It was the perfect reaction from Manchester United. It was what I expected. It's exactly.
Honestly, did you honestly expect? I thought Chelsea might go there and beat them.
Absolutely expected it. I said it yesterday on the show with Danny. I expected Man United to be entirely galvanised. The world's against them now in the eyes and minds of their fans inside the stadium, and I expected a reaction.
But here's the thing: the 1-2-1, Simon. That's a way you shut down the media, is it not? Instead of banning certain journalists, was this not the best response to the reports of a dressing room rift? Well, go out there and get 3 points. And that's what they did.
It always is in the end. It doesn't mean that you don't have a right to push back against something that you feel strongly about. Of course, at the end of the day, you will always win the argument by what you achieve on the pitch. And then the division becomes less of an opportunity, and you win the argument in the dressing room from between the naysayers and the dissenters, and you win the argument in the media because it's not an argument anymore. Just
on that, though, I want your take on this before we hit the first break. Now, I'm not standing up for my friends and the journalist, brackets banned, but you know how it had been insinuated that maybe 1 or 2 players complained to Ten Hag for some time that they've been doing too much running?
Yeah.
McTominay last night. What changed? Well, the way we approached the game and some light training sessions to keep the energy high with a lot of games coming and keep the pressure on the teams above us. Some light training.
But that's an also interesting characterisation, because I also heard him go on to talk about, that's a nuanced part of the conversation. That's not the entire conversation, because I also heard him go on to talk about how much supportive he was of the manager, how he believed in the manager, how he believed in the manager's methods.
Well, he's his boss, right? So he would be.
So he's talking about a much broader conversation than just that isolated quote that can be attributed to an argument that then says, aha, that then pulls at that thread. But he goes on to be much more expansive. So the whole conversation was about the broadest of observations, which is how much he enjoys playing for this manager. And by the way, McTominay's one of those that is constantly, in the minds of the media, marginalised. Everybody seems to tell us that McTominay isn't wanted by Manchester United, isn't featured in the plans of Ten Hag, and is a player that, in the media's perception, isn't good enough for Man United.
Well, it wasn't at the start of the season. He didn't feature. Now, because of the way he's playing, he is featuring.
The characterisation of that,
that's down to McTominay.
But the characterisation of that is that the manager doesn't fancy him. Now, unless you've asked the manager that, you as a journalist cannot possibly know that.
You remember, he was almost on his way to West Ham.
Well, that's your assumption, but he didn't.
My assumption?
It's an assumption.
It's a matter of public record.
Well, it isn't, because ultimately, unless the player told you he was on his way to West Ham...
We brought you the news of that very proposed move in the summer.
Did the player tell us he was going to West Ham?
Did the player tell us?
Did the player confirm he's going almost on his way to West Ham? Did West Ham?
We heard via West Ham.
Fantastic. West Ham made a bid. I used to hear from David Sullivan regularly on what players of mine he was going to buy.
Unless we hear from the players personally about certain moves, don't believe a word.
No, you can categorise it as an assumption, not a fact.
Right.
It's reasonable, isn't it?
Well,
an assumption. It might be a reasonable assumption. It might be an educated assumption, but it's not a fact.
I'll put it like this. I reckon that was the perfect way to respond to these reports of dressing room unrest. I think that was the perfect way last night that United went out there and beat Chelsea and got the 3 points. We'll see what happens next.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.